Words.
Yeah, well, I'm delighted to be here and to be co-leader of this. It ought to be bipartisan, and it is. And I just got the word. Debbie Dingell was going to speak. Is Dr. Moana here? I'm looking around. Is she here? She's going to be here a little bit later. And Debbie Dingell, my colleague, was going to introduce her. I know Dr. Moana because I went up to Flint. I'll confess. So I'm from Southwest Michigan. I was chairman of the Energy and Commerce Committee for a good number of years, and we have term limits, so I can't do that anymore. I just left a hearing upstairs, actually, on the Affordable Care Act. But, tell you, Dan Keel, is anybody here from Michigan? I should ask that first. All right, we got a couple. Anybody and from Flint? Anybody from Flint? No. All right. So, I think many of you know the situation that we had in Flint with the lead lines, and we passed bipartisan legislation. So that we're going to get that noted. Whenever EPA is aware of that in the future, they're going to know. We're now working on PFAS, and I think Dr. Moana is going to talk about this afternoon. I'm on a task force on that. Many of my Michigan colleagues, Republican and Democrat, are on that, and we're trying to force the issue to find out what the standard really should be. And we started that before we learned about the situation in Michigan and other states. PFAS, of course, as many of you know, is used in the fire suppression foam, and it's gotten into the groundwater. The standard that EPA has put out there or guidelines, 70 parts per trillion. We've discovered that it's much higher in a good number of areas, and our former governor now, Rick Snyder, led the charge to test every community's water supply, no matter 10,000 people, residents, or whatever. And now we have to make sure that we have the means to clean that up and to find out what the standard really ought to be. And Dr. Moana has been a wonderful leader on the hosta fronts back in Michigan on that, and Debbie was going to introduce her. We had a nice storm in the Midwest, and so Debbie was not able to come back, which is one of the reasons that I'm here. But just in a minute or two remaining, I helped lead the charge on a legislation that President Obama signed. Literally, the last piece of legislation that he signed, had a signing ceremony for, called 21st Century Cures. This was a 3-year effort. We passed it in the House, 392 to 26. Diana DeGette, my colleague from Denver, was my co-author on that. Debbie Dingell did a wonderful job as we listened to folks all around the country, from medical professionals to industry to even venture capitalists who saw that we were losing money investing in new cures and new devices. And I think we turned the tables. And one of the things that we did was we included $45 billion for an increase over the next 10 years for health research. And I've spent a lot of time with Dr. Francis Collins and others at the NIH and the FDA. We had big increases for them. And some good news, we're looking to even build on that success in this Congress. Debbie Dingell and I have been talking at length, Diana DeGette and others, at looking to see an increase in that budget. And that's one of the reasons why this event, those that you're streaming to and those of you that are here, it's so important, because you're helping us get the votes to get a job done. The president last night in his speech, one of the items where all of us were up on our feet was to have a dramatic increase for child cancer prevention. And he identified a little girl, 10-year-old girl that I spoke with later last night, in terms of the treatment that she's receiving and the money that she's raised for St. Jude's. We all have stories like that. We all have constituents like that break your heart. If any of you are from Purdue, I met the parents yesterday. They were also the guests at the State of the Union last night of young Tyler, who was the inspiration for the Purdue Boilermakers to beat the hated Ohio State Buckeyes in football. It was a real surprise. And I was with Coach Tressel last night. I'm a Big Ten guy, I'm sorry, but I sleep in the basement when my Wolverines lose. But I was with Coach Tressel last night, and I did raise that up with him. But he's the former coach for the Ohio State. But let me get back on message. Yeah, he is a good guy. And Ohio State's a fine university as well. But it's the cases like Tyler. Yeah, they're going to yank my chain now. It's the cases like young Tyler that we all know where we really want to get the research dollars available. And it's always been bipartisan, as it should be. And this event that you're doing helps us garner those individual stories, really helps relate that to my colleagues as we look for increases in what we want to find a cure. And there were so many people that helped us get 21st century cures done. Joe Biden was a terrific force. Of course, he lost his son. We included the Biden cancer moonshot as part of that bill, with additional funding. And we've had subsequent hearings and real successes. So I just want to say thanks for being here. And I'm sorry Debbie can't be here. And I said, of course, I'd come down and say a few words for her. And, so thank you. And good luck. I also support graduate medical education. So it's a good thing for all of you, right?